growing up as kids in the continent of Africa, we were taught to believe that poverty does not exist in America or in Europe. If you lived in America, you would just live this best life and you wouldn't even want to return to the continent of Africa. But that is not the case at all. When you move to these Western countries, you will quickly appreciate how much or how better your country is. I'm not talking about infrastructure, because we understand infrastructure-wise, these countries are way more developed and their infrastructure's level is way more advanced compared to most African countries. However, the quality of life that most people dream about moving to America or Europe for is really not the case. And that's why when I do these videos, I tell people, before you move to these Western countries and go out of your way to sell your home and sell all the valuable items you've worked so hard for over the years in a continent, to just move to this country to start from the scratch, you may want to do your research and revisit that. Take your time to make sure that you're making the right decision, because the last thing I want you to do is to give up everything you've worked so hard for, only to come here and find yourself working paycheck to paycheck, and that's going to do damages to your life. And nobody can ever repair that. I want to make that clear across the board. It goes the same with, you know, American kids or European kids growing up in the West, that Africa is jungle. There is nothing good coming out of Africa. They won't even think about traveling to Africa or consider any of the African countries as a tourist or destination. Until now, when you go on YouTube, you see what Africa, how beautiful Africa is. Now people are shocked. But it is still unfortunate that even in the day and age, there are so many Americans who still believe that Africa is jungle. They think someone like me, who was born and raised in Kinshasa, which is the capital city of the Democratic Republic of Congo, I've seen lions and all this other kind of animals. And I told them, listen, it's actually crazy, because the very first time seeing an animal owned, like a wild animal, I'm not talking about domestic animal, dogs, cats, no, like a wildlife, it was when I moved to America. Driving to work, I'm running into deers, seeing deers, or even risking to hit deers. You see what I'm saying? So guys, we need to educate ourselves more to understand what the world is all about. But because if we sit here thinking that life is just better here in America or in Europe, then we're making the biggest mistake of our lives. I want you guys to be aware that Africa is the